Okay, so welcome to our first video lesson here using VS Code and learning HTML. So the first thing I'm going to do here is show you how to create a new file. So just click on this File Explorer here. This icon will open up a little side panel, and I'm going to go ahead and click here to create a new file. And I'm going to name this demo.html. And notice when I started typing HTML, it changed these little angle braces. And what that's going to do is it's going to recognize the language that I'm typing in, and it's going to give me some color coding, it's going to give me some predictive typing, and allow us some nice features with VS Code. The next thing I'm going to do here is I don't need this Explorer right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on the icon again, which closes it, gives me some more space here to be able to see what I'm typing. So, to create an HTML document, the first thing you're going to do is start with an angle brace, and you see it's going to kind of predict what I'm trying to do here. So this first statement, doctype HTML, just declares that I'm creating an HTML document, and then it's going to be HTML5, which is the most recent version of HTML. The next thing I'm going to do here, which I want you to do, is create comments. So this comment is going to be used to tell me who wrote this program. So go ahead and type in your name. This is a multi-line comment, so you can continue typing in here on different lines. It's all going to be green in my color scheme because it's a comment. Comments are sectioned out of the code, and when the program runs, the comments should not appear anywhere on the screen on the web page that you're developing. This is all going to be within the code itself, and the program will not compile it, will not run it. So, your name, I also need the honor code statement in here. So on my honor as a student, I have not given nor received any unauthorized assistance on this assignment. Okay, so you just need to include these two things in all of your labs and all of your projects, and these should be in a comment. And you notice the comments here start with an open caret, exclamation point, dash dash, and then you close it with a dash dash, close caret. Okay, so again, that's just something that we're going to do for the class, not necessarily necessary for HTML documents. But with all your coding, you should be using comments to leave yourself notes, to leave the other people who may be looking at your program notes as well, how it works, what different variables mean, what different functions and methods should be accomplishing. Good practice. Now, on to HTML. So to make an HTML document, we're going to start off with our first element, HTML. And this is a containing element. It's going to contain everything that we want our document to have. It's all going to be located between these two HTML tags. All right? And then the HTML has two nested elements within it. The first one is a head, and then inside the head you can put a title. This title shows up on the tab. All right, so if you open up a browser, you guys have seen the browsers. We have multiple tabs. You have Google Chrome open, and you open up multiple tabs. They're all along the top of your page. You just click on them. Each one of those usually has words written on them, maybe a favicon as well. But this is how you put a title. The word aspect of that goes in here as a title. If you want to make a favicon for your pages as well, that's a more advanced thing. You can try to find that. We may cover that later in another video. But for now, all you need is a title. Now, notice the indentation. This indentation indicates a nesting. So the head is nested inside the HTML. The HTML lines up with itself, the head lines up with itself, but the head is indented inside of HTML because the head opens and closes before the HTML can close. That makes the head a child element of the HTML. The HTML would be considered a parent element. I can make a sibling here of the head, which is called the body. And between these two elements, the head and the body, is all of our code. Everything we're going to do is either going to be in the head or be in the body. So, like most living things on planet Earth, HTML documents have one head and have one body. All right? One head, one body. The head is the metadata. It's all the information about the page goes into the head. All the content, the things that people are going to see on the actual web page goes inside of the body. So inside the body, we can put additional elements such as headings. So I'm going to do a H1 and H1 heading 1. Now notice I'm not going to enter this because a heading is not really a container element. This is what I want the heading to be. So all right, so my first web page. And now I've got something that's going to show up on my web page. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And you see the shortcut here, Control F5, will also run, but run without debugging. And I'm going to click on Chrome. And you see there's my web page showing up right here, my first web page. Notice it's rather large text and it's been bolded. And that's how this browser, Chrome, will interpret an H1 tag. So browsers are interpretive, and so if I was to open this up with an Edge, it may look slightly different. Maybe the font's different, maybe the size is a little different, because different browsers interpret what an H1 element is going to look like on their program. So we write what we want, and then the browsers interpret it and render it to the screen according to the rules that those browsers have been written to render. So you see I have this little run and debug. If you want to get rid of that, just click on the one that was highlighted. It goes away. Okay, so H1s. H1s are the most important heading, the thing on the page that is the most important thing. Usually you're only going to have one H1, right? If you want additional topics, maybe you can come in here and do an H2 and a main topic. And if I go ahead and run this again, you see my H1 is here and my H2 is slightly smaller. It gives me a main topic, all right? There are 6 headings. So H1, H2, H3. And we'll say this is a subtopic. We'll just leave it as a subtopic. And now I can just hit this restart button here, and then you can see my page will come up here, and you see the H3 slightly smaller again, still bold, but you see each time I increase the number, it decreases the size that is being displayed to the screen. And again, that will do that all the way to H6. After H6, it may just give you all H6 size. It's not really going to understand an H7 or H8. Okay, so headings. This is how you create headings and subheadings. You can also create some paragraphs, right? A paragraph uses a P tag. So this is where you can create All right, so all your written text should really be located inside of an element, and the different elements will determine how it's going to appear, right, on the screen. So we saw that H1s, H2s, H3s were in bold and slightly larger. I can create a paragraph here, and then I come down, I can do another paragraph, and we can say this is the second paragraph. And if I go ahead and refresh it, you see each paragraph is separated on its own line, and each heading is separated on its own line, and that's what we call block elements. So a block element will keep the elements within its own kind of section of the page and will not allow other elements to be located horizontally beside it. Each block element takes up space and pushes new elements below it or above it. And we can adjust that with different types of CSS styles, but the main default behavior of these block elements is, again, to push new elements down to the bottom. And what do I mean by that? So you may be thinking it's because I have put these in line like this that it's showing up in that way. But you can see here, and this is another nice feature of VS Code, is you can highlight, click, and drag and move text around. So here, now you see my H3 is on the same line as the paragraph in the code. But if I refresh the page, it's still showing up below the paragraph. Even though the code has them on the same line, the web page is rendered on separate lines because both paragraphs and headings are block elements, forcing new elements to go down on the page. So that's happening naturally by default. What if I wanted my paragraph? What if I want to structure something like a poem or something like that, where I want to create multiple lines? Well, I don't have to close this paragraph here. I could keep this, let's say this is one big paragraph here, and I hit enter, right? And go ahead and run this. But notice they're on different lines, but they're showing up together on one big line. So these enters, this white space in the code, does not render it. What it does is it reads all from paragraph to paragraph until it runs out of space. So there is some, if I bring this over here, I can show you, I can get it to wrap by making the width of the page smaller. And you see it will text wrap down. But as long as there's space, it's going to show it all on the same line. So that's fine, but how can I make it show up the way I want? I want these to be two separate lines. You can use a BR tag. It's not going to let me predict here, so we'll do a BR tag here. And there we go. Now when I refresh this, you see it's back down to showing it at a new line. What you notice though is that there's not really much separation, right? These, when I had them as separate paragraphs, they gave us a little bit of spacing. And that spacing is caused by margins and padding and between different elements. Right now, it's just a line break between the two texts within the same element. So again, all this stuff may make sense later as we get into CSS and how to style these different elements. That's basically it. That's our first website.